When deploying containers in Snowflake via Snowpark Container Services, the ability to debug container failures is key as workloads mature and move to production. It's true that we have application logs, metrics, and all other kinds of telemetry, but that leaves still some gaps when you're trying to troubleshoot things like out-of-memory errors, restart loops, or failures of the container to even start. Not to mention that if you're trying to set up alerting, these signals can be quite noisy. To address that, Snowpark Container Services will now start emitting platform events around container status. And these include things like the readiness probe is failing, or the compute pool is now provisioning new nodes. Things like the image is in the invalid format, or the container was killed due to being out of memory, or other resource limitations. Let's go ahead and check out a demo. I've prepared a few services here that run some problematic containers that are purposefully set up to demonstrate some of these failure cases. This first container just throws an exception and exits. And because we're running it as an SPCS service, which is a long-running process, it will get continuously restarted. We call that crash looping. So I'll go ahead and resume this service. I've already pre-created it, and that'll start that crash loop. One way we could check for this is if we head over to the services and jobs area in Snowsight. It's under monitoring here. And then we can find our service. I've already pre-filtered by the compute pool. So there it is. And it's waiting to start. And as it gets going, we'll notice that it will just repeatedly crash. And one useful thing to notice here is the restart count. That's something that now you can easily see here in Snowsight. And as it continues to restart, you can sort of notice that increasing. So that's one easy way to identify crash looping containers. But now let's look at the platform events. I can head over to the Traces and Logs tab. That's under Monitoring, Traces and Logs in Snowsight. And let me filter for the crashing service. So I can choose Snowpark Container Services and filter for it by name. And by default, this shows both logs and platform events. I can go ahead and pre-filter for platform events only. And so here's the new event that's being emitted, right? It's letting us know that there's an application error in the container, and the container has now failed. When the container comes back up again, we see the ready status and then transitioning back to the failed status. So this is great for setting up, for example, alerting based on these events, and they're very easy to parse with a very clear status field here. Let's turn our attention to another service, and this is a job. So this is a short-lived workload, and I've created a container that basically consumes up memory. It goes up to 1 gigabyte of memory, but we've set a resource limit of 500 megabytes. And this means we're telling the SPCS infrastructure that this container is allowed to consume no more than 500 megabytes, which means at some point it will get killed by the infrastructure because of its excess memory consumption. So I'll go ahead and execute that. And eventually this execution will fail for that exact reason, the container getting killed because of excess memory, or as we say, killed. And so again, we can head over to the logs area here, and now let's change our filter to this new service. Hit refresh, and there you go. Here's the platform event demonstrating that the container was killed due to being out of memory. And so these are just two great examples: a crash looping container or a container that was killed because of excessive resource usage. And if we head over to our documentation here, you'll see all the other events that we emit. We have things around readiness, the startup of the service, different failure cases, and these help construct a mature monitoring story as you bring your workload to production. So go ahead and try out platform events, and we're looking forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.